Hi you guys! Today's video lesson is on multiplying and dividing decimals. So before you start, this is the worksheet that you need, okay? I'm going to be going through quite a few examples with you, so I want you to follow along. Copy the examples down on your paper, and then once you have done that, I want you to bring it back to me. Show me that you have followed along and you have those examples done, and then you can finish completing that assignment. Okay, so when you are, we're going to start with multiplying fractions. Okay, when you are multiplying fractions, you do not need a common denominator. Okay, so that's the first thing I need you to know. Also, when you are multiplying and dividing positive and negative fractions, you just have to remember that a positive times a positive is going to give you a positive answer. A negative times a negative is going to give you a positive answer. A positive times a negative is going to give you a negative answer, and a negative times a positive is going to give you a negative answer. Okay, so if your numbers are the same signs, either both positive or both negative, your answer will be positive. And if if your numbers are one positive and one negative, or one negative and one positive, your answers will be negative. Okay, now we know that when we multiply fractions, we don't have to have a common denominator. And we are just going to do the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. So basically, we are going to do top times top over bottom times bottom. And then once we've done that, we are going to simplify what we have left. So here we go. Let's start with number 1. We have an 11 times by negative 19 over 16, and we're going to worry about the sign of our answer after we've completed the problem. Okay, so we can see that this is a negative 19 over 16. Now, whenever you have a whole number, the way that you make that a fraction is you put that whole number over 1. Okay, so 11 divided by 1, that's 11. This makes 11 a fraction. Okay. We are going to do top times top over bottom times bottom. Remember, we do not need a common denominator, so we do 11 times 19 which is 209, and then we do 1 times 16, which is 16. And we can either leave this as an improper fraction, that's where the top number is bigger than the bottom number, or we can change it to a mixed number. I actually prefer if you just leave your fractions as improper fractions. I do want you to simplify the fractions if they can simplify. Okay, so when we look at these two numbers, 209 and 16, and we're trying to find the greatest common factor between them, one of them is an odd number and the other one is an even number. We also need to think about the fact that if you have an odd number, it's never going to have factors that are even. And 209 is actually a prime number, meaning that its only factors are 1 in itself. Okay? So this fraction cannot simplify. Now we need to make sure that we get the right sign for our answer. In this problem, we had a positive 11 multiplied by a negative 19 over 16. And you guys know that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 2. On number 2, you have two mixed numbers, okay, that you're multiplying together. So the very first thing that we want to do when we're multiplying mixed numbers is we want to change the mixed numbers to improper fractions. And we've practiced that a little bit in this class. To do that, you do the denominator times the whole number and then add the numerator. So 2 times 11 is 22. 22 plus 1 would be 23. And then we put that over 2. And then 9 times 1 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16 over 9. Okay, now we've changed both of these to improper fractions. We're just going to now multiply them together. We're going to figure out the sign of our answer after we've done this multiplication. So remember, to multiply fractions, you do top times top over bottom times bottom. 23 times 16 is 368. and 2 times 9 is 18. And we now have an improper fraction, and we can leave this improper. I do want you to simplify it though. And because both 8 and 18 are even numbers, we could start with just dividing both of them by 2. And if you take 368 and you divide by 2, and then that is 184 when we take 368 and divide by 2. And 8 divided by 2 is 9. Okay? And then this fraction cannot simplify any further, so we're just going to leave it improper. And now we have to make sure we have the right sign for our answer. A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so this would be positive 184 over 9. Let's go ahead and look at number 3. Okay, number 3, we have a negative times by a positive. So we know in the end our answer is going to be negative. And to figure out what our answer is, we're going to take 2/3, we're going to multiply it by 3/5. Remember that you do not need a common denominator when you multiply. So 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 5 is 15, and now we just need to simplify this fraction. Okay? In order to simplify the fraction, we need to find the greatest common factor between 6 and 15. So factors of 6 would be 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Factors of 15 would be 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. So we can see they have a greatest common factor of 3. So that means we're going to divide both the top and the bottom by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5, 2/5. And then a positive divided by a negative is a negative answer. So negative 2/5 would be our final answer. Okay, so I want to do one more example with you for multiplying fractions before we go to dividing fractions. Okay, so 7 and 8/13 times by negative 3/2. So we have a positive times a negative, and that's going to give us a negative answer. And now on this one, we have a mixed number of 7 and 8/13. So the first thing that we want to do is change that mixed number to an improper fraction. So we're going to do 13 times 7, and then we are going to add 8. So 13 times 7 is 91. 91 plus 8 is 99. So that becomes 99/13. And then we are going to multiply that by 3/2. So now from here, we do top times top over bottom times bottom. 99 times 3 is 297. And 13 times 2 is 26. And these two do not actually have any common factors. So our final answer would be a negative 297 over 26. Okay, so remember that the steps for multiplying fractions are, if there are any mixed numbers, you're going to change them to improper fractions. So changed mixed numbers to improper fractions. And then the second thing that you need to do is top times top over bottom times bottom. And then the third thing that you need to do is to simplify. And then the fourth thing that you need to do is make sure that you have the correct sign. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the dividing fractions. The nice thing about dividing fractions is once you know how to multiply fractions, you also know how to divide fractions. There's a rule that I want you to remember when you divide fractions, and it's keep, change, flip. Okay? When we divide fractions, we actually multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So let me show you what that looks like. On number 11, we have a negative 1 over 5 divided by a negative 3 1/3. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to change that 3 1/3 to an improper fraction. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10/3. Okay? So now we have 1/5 divided by 10/3. So from here, we are going to keep, change, flip. We're going to keep the first fraction the same. We're going to change the division to a multiplication sign, and then we are going to flip the second fraction. Okay, so remember, when you're dividing fractions, you're really just multiplying by the reciprocal of the second fraction. And the reciprocal just means that the numerator became the denominator and the denominator became the numerator. Now from here, you already know how to multiply fractions. Top times top, over bottom times bottom, and then simplify. There are no common factors between 3 and 50. And then we need to pay attention to our sign of our answer. A negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive answer. So we would end up with 3 over 50. Let's go ahead and look at number 13. Okay, on number 13, we have 17 over 11. So we have an improper fraction here. And that's being divided by a negative 6. Okay, remember, to make a whole number fraction, we put it over 1. We know that we have a positive being divided by a negative, which means our answer is going to be negative. And then when we divide fractions, remember, we're actually multiplying by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So we're going to keep, change, flip. Here we go. Keep the 17 over 11 the same, change the division to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction so that we're multiplying by its reciprocal. And then we do top times top. 17 times 1 is 17. Bottom times bottom. 11 times 6 is 66. This fraction does not simplify. There are no common factors between 17 and 66. So our final answer is negative 17 over 66. Now, one thing I want to show you is that if you have a negative 17 over 66, that is actually the same thing as 17 over negative 66. So the negative can go with either the top or the bottom. Okay, let's go ahead and look at one more division, and then I think you guys will be ready to try some of these on your own. Let's do number 14. Okay, so number 14, we have 3 5/6 divided by 4/7. Okay, and we know for this one, we have a positive divided by a negative, which means our answer is going to be negative. So let's figure out what our answer is. First, let's change this mixed number to an improper fraction. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 5 is 23/6. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So remember, keep, change, flip. From there, we need to do top times top over bottom times bottom. 6 times 4 is 24. 23 times 7 is 161. Voila. And this fraction does not simplify. So our final answer is negative 161 over 24. So that is multiplying and dividing fractions. Hopefully that was a good review for you guys. Remember, the new skill is not multiplying and dividing fractions. The new skill is making sure that you have the right sign for your answer. So at this point, I want you to come and show me that you followed along with those examples. And then I'm going to have you finish this practice sheet. So you're going to do the multiplying side first. Find each product. That means multiplication in math. And then you are going to do the dividing side, which is find each quotient. After you have done the practice, you are going to correct yours using the answer key. Remember that it's really, really important that you actually practice the practice before checking yours with the answer key. That way you're going to know if you know this or not. And then make sure that you fix any that you've missed, and then turn this assignment into me, and you can move forward with your ALEKS assignment.